FBI raids New York's police sergeants union's offices, and the union president resigned. Federal agents raided the offices Tuesday of a New York City police union, the Sergeants Benevolence Association, and the Long Island home of its bombastic leader, who has clashed with city officials over his incendiary tweets and hardline tactics. FBI spokesperson Martin Feely said agents were carrying out a law enforcement action in connection with an ongoing investigation. Agents were seen carrying boxes out of the union's Manhattan headquarters and loading them into a van. The FBI also searched Union President Ed Mullins' home in Port Washington, Long Island, Feely said. Mullins resigned as the union's president Tuesday night at the behest of its board, according to a message the union sent to its members. The union represents about 13,000 active and retired NYPD sergeants and controls a $264 million retirement fund. The nature and scope of this criminal investigation has yet to be determined. However, it is clear that President Mullins is apparently the target of a federal investigation. We have no reason to believe that any other member of the SBA is involved or targeted in this matter, the union's message said. The union's board said that while Mullins is presumed innocent, it asked him to step aside to ensure the union's day-to-day operations continued unimpeded. The union said it was cooperating with the investigation. Messages seeking comment were left with Mullins and the union. Calls to Mullins' cell phone went to a full voicemail box. Mullins, a police sergeant detached to full-time union work, is in the middle of a departmental disciplinary proceedings for tweeting NYPD paperwork last year regarding the arrest of Mayor Bill de Blasio's daughter during protests over the Minneapolis police killing of George Floyd. Mullins' department trial began last month but was postponed indefinitely after one of his lawyers suffered a medical emergency. Mullins' lawyer denies he violated the department's guidelines, arguing arrest papers with Chiara de Blasio's personal identifying information, such as her date of birth, address, were already posted online. Mullins is also suing the department, claiming they were trying to muzzle him by grilling him and recommending disciplinary action over his online missives, which have included claims that officers were at war with city leaders. Asked about the raid Tuesday, Mayor de Blasio told reporters he didn't have enough information to comment. I think he's been a divisive force, de Blasio said of Mullins, but that doesn't cause me to feel anything in this situation because I don't know what's happening. All I hear is that there's an FBI raid. I don't know the specifics. I don't know who's directed at. I want to really hear the details before I comment further. The Sergeants Benevolent Association runs a Widows and Children's Fund, a scholarship fund for members of children, and Blue Christmas, which distributes toys to needy children. Mullins, a police officer since 1982, rose to sergeant, a rank above detective, but below captain and lieutenant. In 1993, he was elected president of the Sergeants Union in 2002. Under Mullins' leadership, the union has fought for better pay, with contracts resulting in pay increases of 40%, and staked a prominent position in the anti-reform movement. Though he's a full-time union chief, city law has allowed Mullins to retain his sergeant's position and collect salaries from both the union and the police department. Last year, Mullins made more than $220,000 between the two. According to public records, he made $88,000 from the union and $133,000 from the NYPD. The NYPD referred questions about Mullins to the FBI. Along with Mullins' periodic appearances on cable networks like Fox News and Newsmax, including one which he was pictured in front of QAnon mug, perhaps the union's most powerful megaphone is its 45,000 follower Twitter account, which Mullins runs himself, often to fiery effect. In 2018, amid of rash incidents in which police officers were doused with water, Mullins suggested it was time for then Commissioner James O'Neill and Chief Department Terrence Mahanahan to consider another profession, and tweeted that O'Neill must go. O'Neill retorted that Mullins was a bit of a keyboard gangster who seldom showed up to department functions. Last year, Mullins came under fire for tweets calling the city's former health commissioner, Dr. Oxford Barber, a BITC blah blah blah, and the U.S. Rep. Richie Torres a first-class whore. Mullins was upset over reports Barber refused to give face masks to police in the early days of the pandemic, and angry with Torres' calls for an investigation into potential police work slowdown in September 2020. Torres, who is gay, denounced Mullins' tweet as homophobic. On Tuesday, Torres referred that tweet in reacting to the news raid, writing Ed Mullins, who famously called me a first-class whore for daring to ask questions about the SBA NYPD just got a first-class raid from the FBI.
Ed Mullins walked out of his Long Island home Tuesday carrying a black bag in his left hand and another around his right shoulder. The 20-year union leader had no comment after the FBI raided his home, and hours earlier,
can you tell us what's in the boxes?
A parade of agents answered no questions as they walked out of the Manhattan headquarters of the Sergeant Benevolence Association in Tribeca. The evidence of their raid in these open brown boxes appear to be green bullet-resistant vests or body armor.
Ed Mullins, the head of one of the largest police unions in the country, had resigned after his home and office were raided by the FBI. Since then, things have not gotten any better for the now former president of the Sergeants Benevolent Association. New York Post reported today, quote, high-ranking law enforcement officials told the Post the feds are investigating the possible misappropriation of union funds and seeking evidence of mail and wire fraud. Union officials told members Wednesday that its funds are good and said it would not be providing Mullins with legal representation, which is pretty extraordinary considering that Ed Mullins was the face of that union for nearly 20 years. And, stuck it out, stayed in the job throughout countless controversies like the QAnon mug that was positioned behind him for multiple TV interviews, and the time he tweeted the arrest record of New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio's daughter, who was attending a protest, and the time he called the city health commissioner a bitch with blood on her hands, and the time he called then city councilman Richie Torres a, quote, first-class whore. Again, these weren't like off-the-record things. He tweeted those. Or the time he suggested cops should be allowed to sue the estates of people they shoot for emotional damages. Or the time he emailed a racist video to thousands of police sergeants with a personal message saying, and I quote, pay close attention to every word. You will hear what goes through the mind of real policemen every single day on the job. This is the best video I've ever seen telling public the absolute truth. What was in the video? Well, the narrator in the video that Mullins tells people to listen to every word of calls the absolute truth, says things like, quote, the projects will always be dens of crime and violence. Cops will continue to wade into that fray, and blacks will continue to attack and ambush us forever. Mullins later claimed he hadn't seen the whole video, even though he wrote to listen to every word, adding, quote, I have black friends, white friends, Asian friends. I wouldn't want to insult anyone. I don't think one incident defines who I am. It wasn't just that one incident. It was multiple incidents over decades as the leader of one of the largest police unions in the entire country. Ed Mullins has now been stripped of his gun and badge, put on modified duty, but he's still a sergeant in the NYPD. Doesn't have his gun, but had been for the last 20 years deputized by the city to enforce its laws, kill if necessary. How can you ask people to trust a system that gives a man like Ed Mullins so much power?